Welcome to the dark side of BEASTwriter. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and this is where social media engagement is encouraged. We like to engage with the fans. We like to engage with everyone here. So I just want to say thank you and mahalo to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. We have a special guest here today, Vegas Nation reporter Vinny Bonsignore of Las Vegas Review-Journal and host of Raiders Nation Radio, Vegas Nation reporter. I mean, this guy is all silver and black. I mean, he bleeds silver and black. So he is with us today. He is the one that's actually at practice, at OTAs, at mandatory minicamp, reporting news, the pulse of the team. I mean, you're going to get firsthand information that you won't get anywhere else in the dark side of BEASTwriter. So thank you so much, Vinny B. How are you doing today on this hump day?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. I love doing things like this. I understand. I take what I do seriously because I know Raider Nation is extremely passionate, and I feel like they deserve accurate news. They deserve objective news and reports, and that's hopefully some entertainment as well. And that's what I strive for. And honestly, it's your audience, it's my followers, my readers, listeners. This is why I do this and take it so seriously.
Well, you do a really good job, and for what it's worth, it's not. People don't think they think it's easy, when they see us and they see us do what I can do it, but really, it's not as easy as it seems. There's a lot of stuff on the back end that they don't see. They only see this part of it. They don't see the prep time. They don't see the analysis that goes into what we provide. So. And you can see who actually does the homework and who doesn't. Like it's very clear cut, who cuts corners and who doesn't. And you definitely do not. So Vinny B, we're going to get started. We're not going to waste any more time because I want to know what you have to say. And I really respect your analysis and insights. First and foremost, what drove you to cover the NFL as a career path for someone that's looking into getting in this avenue?
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. I mean, I've had a pretty long career, and for most of it in Southern California, Los Angeles. Worked for the Lakers way back in the day in their public relations department, and then segued into reporting with Los Angeles Daily News. But what was so interesting and kind of ironic, to be honest with you, is that we didn't have the NFL in Los Angeles for the majority of my career there. The NFL had just basically left maybe 2 years before I really started getting back into the writing part of it and the reporting part of it. And so I was covering the Lakers, the Dodgers, USC football, high school sports when I was first starting out there. I rose to become a columnist with the Los Angeles Daily News, kind of general writing about everything: Kobe Bryant, Shaquille, Phil Jackson, Pete Carroll at USC. And I was pretty content doing that. I enjoyed it. Who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's pretty darn good stories there. But then, right around, there was always talk about the NFL returning eventually to Los Angeles. But in LA, we kind of felt like, Charlie Brown to the NFL's Lucy. Every time we came to kick the ball through the uprights, like a deal was going to happen and then the NFL was going to come back, the NFL kept pulling that football out from under us, and we kept it was like the joke was on us all along. But then, it started probably around 2011, 2012-ish or so, right around there, where things started taking a little bit more of a serious turn. I know this is a long-winded answer here, but it's really important, especially for if there's anyone that's pursuing this career, to really kind of pay attention to kind of what I'm saying. Because there started to become a more serious turn where previously it felt like we were being used a little bit in Los Angeles for other stadiums to get built. It started taking a little bit more of a this could be really, really happening. There was Farmers Field was a stadium that was being built right next door to Staples Center over by the convention center. They literally had all the plans, everything had been agreed upon. The only thing that they lacked was a team. But it showed that, we could get on the right track. Los Angeles could get on the right track because previously it had always been who was going to pay for it, were the politics going to be behind it. And that one got to that point where, okay, we could do the paying part of it potentially. The politics got behind it. There just wasn't a team. But I think it opened the door. And so it circled back to me as soon as I kind of started realizing where it might be serious. Like the NFL might legitimately be coming back at some point here pretty soon. And I remember telling my editors that, and some of my colleagues, and they're like, "Oh, it's not going to happen. Don't buy into it. We're going to get used as we always do." And I was like, "Nah, I'm getting a different feeling, a different vibe this time." So I kind of purposely decided to just, in addition to still doing all my other columnist work, to really start focusing in on the stadium, who might play here, and the NFL possibly coming back to Los Angeles. And I'll never forget this. I used to go up to Oxnard, California, which is kind of close to where I was living at the time anyway. The Dallas Cowboys would practice there in training camp. And Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, was a real big proponent of the NFL eventually coming back to Los Angeles. And every summer, to start training camp, I would go up to Thousand Oaks to get his comments on where the state of the NFL potentially coming back to LA. Myself and Sam Farmer from the Los Angeles Times would all see each other there. And I'll never forget, whereas it was always, we're working on it. We need to be here. I don't know why we're not here. It's a travesty, and I can't remember the exact year, but at one point, it might've been 2013-ish or 14-ish. He said to me, he goes, "Mark my word," and he kind of, circled like a calendar type thing, right around here. Just pay attention to that time right there. He goes, it's going to really start happening there. And his whole thing was, I'm not just saying this because I think or I hope, kind of know what's going on here a little bit.
Yeah.
And so for me, I took that really seriously, and I really jumped on that story. And of course, we all know what happened with the Rams and the Chargers and the Raiders and all of that, and that whole saga of trying to get back to LA. And that became a story unto itself. I mean, it was a roller coaster ride. And fortunately, by that point, I had kind of positioned myself to really be a strong voice in that story, telling that story from LA's perspective and other teams' perspectives. And I think that positioned me that when the NFL did eventually come back, which it did in 2016, I was just naturally going to start covering the NFL and the Rams. So it was kind of a gamble a little bit. I know my wife was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? All of us, you get to do this, you get to do that. You want to focus on one thing." And I was like, I think if I had to focus on one thing, the NFL would be it. And so I really put a lot of eggs in that basket, and obviously it worked out.
Yeah, and you do a really good job at it. And like I said, like you said, coming from the LA Rams, I'm coming from the San Francisco 49ers, so NFC West going to the AFC West. But going back to covering multiple teams, you have to have a certain, with the quarterback, you have an it factor. Same thing in the media. I think you have to have an it factor. You have to have a sense of knowing the future without knowing the future, if that means, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why when I have people on my show and I hand select people, like I don't just get Joe Schmoes on my show. People who I really think provide strong analysis, because people always want to know they always want to know the future. They always want to know what's going to happen 2 to 3 years down the road. What's the 2-3 year outlook? What's going to happen at this point? Well, by then, when you report it, it's already old news. It's already in the past, and everyone's trying to play catch up. That's what I like about your analysis, is you're forward thinking to the point where it's in line with what's actually going to happen more times than not. And I think that's too many people take that for granted. They go on a live stream and they just talk about news today and recycled news, but with no substance. Like, you have to have substance behind what you're saying. Otherwise, what's the point of listening to you, to me, or to anyone else, right? So I just think you do a really good job at that.
Well, I appreciate that. And part of that, I would say 99% of it. I mean, you obviously have to have a perception and be able to kind of, cipher through things and all that type of stuff, but also having good sources. I think that's the part. I mean, just to bring it home to these last couple of days, and Ndamukong Suh has been linked with the Raiders, and kind of more on his end than the Raiders. And I reported that, like, it just doesn't seem like the interest is all that mutual right now. Doesn't mean it can change or won't change or whatever the case might be. But as of right now, and for whatever reason, it could be the money involved or the fit of Suh with the Raiders. But from the Raiders' perspective, based on my reporting, it's more on him than it is on them. And you report that, and I think there's an assumption sometimes that you're just pulling it out of your ear. I would never do that to my readers. You know what I'm saying? Like I will never take readers, followers, listeners, whatever, for granted to the point where I just throw nonsense out there like that. If you see something from me that's pretty definitive in that regard, rest assured it's coming from some strong sources. Like obviously can't say who those people are, and it's a wide range of people that that have knowledge of things and that type of thing that you rely on and lean on. But that's kind of the whole point, is like you're only as good a lot of times as the sources that you have, and part of that is the relationships that you build, and it's really the trust that you build. Knowing that that you're going to use the information wisely and prudently and honestly. You're also going to be careful in terms of how you put it out there in order to protect your sources. Not all sources, obviously, for obvious reasons, you don't want their name out there. So it's a kind of a little bit of a fine line that you got to work. But the bottom line is, when you mentioned all of those things that you mentioned, while I thank you very much, I really appreciate that, and I truly do. A lot of knowing or having a good sense of where things might be headed is because the relationships that you build with sources that are deeply involved in it, and those are who your go-to people and the people that you lean on, and then use that information to report as accurately as you possibly can to the public.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. I always said, and when I used to cover the Niners, Trent Baalke said the NFL is a risk-reward business, and I told Trent, I was like, you know what, that may be true, but it's a people business. If you're good with people, you're going to get strong information. And it goes all the way up to the top. You talk about scouting, right? And how come some scouting departments do better than others? Well, you have to build rapport with a lot of people, not just the coaching staff. You have to build strong rapport with the faculty. You have to build strong rapport with the people who are actually in the know, because they can feed you all the information they want. Oh, this is a good player. This, he's this and that. He's very coachable. But at the end of the day, are you getting real strong, solid information? So integrity and trust and protecting your sources is a strong, strong leverage point that I also take very seriously. And that's why when sources tell me things, for instance, let's go back to the Trey Lance. Everyone was saying Mac Jones. My sources were telling me it was Trey Lance. I was one of the few, if not the only one, that put it out there. I said, it's not Mac Jones, it's Trey Lance. And so people were like, oh, okay, well, we're going to see. Boom, it happened. And then people were like, oh, how did you know? And then I'm not going to release my sources. And I'll tell you this, a lot of the times on social media, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can only speak for myself. Would it be the sources that it's coming from? We don't follow each other on social media, because you can put two and two together. So that's why it's almost like, well, it's good information, but you'll never find out who it is, because like you said, I protect the sources just as much as they're giving me the information, because at the end of the day, it's all about having goodwill and having good faith. So that's what it's about, man. That's what the NFL media is about.
It's interesting that you mentioned like the scouting part of it. When teams are looking, and it goes for us as well, and from the other side, like like I said, we're only as good as our sources, in terms of the information end of it. It goes both ways too, because if there are people that could be giving you wrong information or misleading information, or just straight lies, to be honest with you, and that gets exposed pretty quickly and found out pretty quickly, and you check that person off and move on. And to your point, in terms of the scouting world, a scout, when they're doing their background checks and trying to figure out, okay, we know what this guy is as a player, this player is as a player, but what about as a person? How is he behind the scenes? And if you're getting bad information from somebody that's just going to yes you to death, or give you not tell you the true story, guess what? That's going to be exposed pretty quickly. When all of a sudden somebody comes into your building that was nothing like what he was described by this person that you were relying on. And that's a bad look for the person who's giving that information. So typically if you're a team, you're only as strong as your sources on a college campus or a high school campus, or whoever you reach out to try to paint a picture of the player that you're interested in. And if you're getting bad information from people, you're not going to go back to that person. That's only going to hurt that person.
Right. And again, it goes back to having trust. At the end of the day, you have to have trust and integrity. I keep on telling people that because there's some colleagues that I have, not going to name people, but they just go for whatever gets clicks, whatever gets interaction, whatever can get them more followers. And I always tell my viewers here, it's not, I don't care about the number of followers or the number of people that view my story just for a story. I'm going to give you something that I feel and truly believe in, because at the end of the day, I have to look at myself in the mirror and be okay with it. Right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I tell everybody, it's been a little bit more difficult, obviously, with COVID-19, not being able to build that personal relationship that you can with the people that you cover. Hopefully that's changing with locker room access and whatnot. But, when I start getting to a point where I'm building a rapport with somebody, and that could, the gamut can range throughout a building or a team or whatever. But, I always tell people, like, look, there's going to be times I have to write critical things, and that's just the nature of the business. And I've always, the good ones, and I'm talking about people all the way from Kobe Bryant, to others, that I've covered over the years. Their whole thing was, look, if I play like, I know you're going to have to write that. I get that. I understand it. And you have a right to do that, because I did play like that, and it deserves to be written about, and I get it. And it's when people get gratuitous with it and just, either make stuff up or go overboard with it or manufacture it. As long as I always say, if you're playing well, the stories are going to be good. If you're playing bad, the stories are going to be bad. And most of the really good ones, and I'm talking about coaches and athletes and executives, they're like, we wouldn't expect anything else than that, and as long as you're truthful about it and accurate and writing what's really and truly going on, whether it's good or bad, there's respect about it. It's when you get, like I said, gratuitous with it, or just do it for effect or do it for clicks,
right?
That again, as a reporter, you're gonna get found out real quick, and there go your sources, and there goes the trust factor, and all of that.
I always say our job is to project and predict. It's the player's job to perform. And I had this conversation with a player one time, and he getting to that point, he was like, "Oh man, I thought we were friends." I was like, "You know what? I have a job to do, and I know you can do better, but I have to put this out there for my viewers." And then he understood that. He was a rookie at the time. I'm not going to name the player, but he's a Pro Bowl player now, and we still keep in touch. He comes back to that story and says, "I understand you have a job to do." And I'm really thankful for that, because it was a learning experience for me, because throughout my whole life, whether it be middle school, high school, college, NFL, I've been told I was the best. And all of a sudden, when you're not the best, he said that he didn't know how to take it. And so I think it was constructive criticism. I told him, "Hey, look, man, like, I got to put this out there, and so once we hashed that out, all 7 years later, I mean, we're all good and dandy. We're good friends now, but initially it took that kind of mentality for him to understand that, hey, we have a job to do, and we have to stay objective, because at the end of the day, we also have to report. We're the eyes and ears of everyone else. They don't have the luxury of being at practice. They don't have the luxury of getting the inside information. So we have a duty of building rapport with the players and the coaching staff and the management, but then we also have a duty to the fans as well." So you just hit it on the nail. Speaking of that, what are some cool stories you can tell us during your short time as a Raiders beat writer?
In terms of
anything, like anything that sticks out of your mind that was like, man, that's pretty cool. It could be as easy as, oh man, Allegiant Stadium was legit. It was lit. Like, what is that like?
Allegiant Stadium is definitely a great stadium. A lot of people didn't think it was actually going to get pulled off. But to the Raiders' credit, they definitely did. It was so weird, because I took over the beat in the last month of the 2019 season. I literally had to move up to Oakland for a month, live out of a hotel, and that was my first real, getting to know. We did it that way because they wanted to, the Las Vegas Review-Journal wanted me to get a leg up on covering the team full time in 2020. So get to know some players, get to know John Gruden, the coaching staff, the general manager, all of those types of things, to start building those relationships. And I did, I was kind of the new face, but was making my rounds, was making my way, getting to know some of these people. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and I haven't been in the Raiders locker room since 2019. How about that? Which is sad when you think about it, because of the implications of the pandemic and all the destruction that caused. But from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint, it's really cut us off, from gaining access to the players. And I really feel like this isn't probably answering your question, but to me, a great story for me is I felt like that win over the Colts in Indianapolis. That was a memorable. People remember the Chargers game, and rightfully so. It was one of the great games of all time. But the Raiders going on the road the week before to set everything up for that game against the Chargers. Nobody thought the Chargers were going to win. It was weird because I remember on my radio show and writing about this, I felt like the Raiders were in a pretty good position to win that game. I don't know why. Nothing made sense. They're going on the road. They're playing the Colts. The Colts needed the win as well. They were playing good. You had a powerful run game. That place gets nuts in Indianapolis. But they won the game, and that was one I can remember. We were talking to like Derek and the coaching staff and whatnot in the little interview room, and it was right next to their locker room, and you could just hear the jubilation in the locker room. I'll never forget that. It was a sense of accomplishment. The Raiders knew how important, obviously, that game was, and to go ahead and complete the mission. To put themselves in a position to go play for a playoff spot the next week, that was memorable. The game against the Chargers for sure was memorable. But I'm honestly looking forward to being able to get back into the locker room. Yeah. And because that's where you start building relationships and a trust factor and the players really putting a face to the name, and I'm big on that. I'm strong. I'm a big proponent of, if you're going to write something critical, and sometimes we have to do that, you need to be professional also about showing up to the locker room that next day. And if the player wants to talk to you about it, like, hey, what was that all about? Or can you explain yourself? And giving them an opportunity to really see who it was and know that name. And because to me, I think there's too many people that sit up in a studio or whatever the case might be, or just honestly in on a blog or whatever, writing this, saying that, but don't go into the locker room the next day I'm not saying face the music, but just be professional enough if somebody had some questions to talk to you about it. But I also feel like you get to know the players, much better. I remember covering the Rams, Jared Goff was there, and he's a Bay Area guy. And he always had literally an ode to the Golden State Warriors up in his locker. I mean, he had all their championship banners and stuff like that. And he and I used to kid around because I was like, come on, man, are you a bandwagon Warriors fan? He's like, hey, what? I was there when he was naming all the names of the bad years and stuff like that. Like, I'm just with you. I believe you. I believe you. And he was like, and so we wouldn't even talk football a lot of times, over there at his locker. It would just be about life and sports and big, he was a huge sports fan. You start to get to know them as people, and it just makes things so much more comfortable. It's sort of getting that way with Derek Carr, that in 2019, he conversely is a Laker fan. It was always ironic to me that the Bay Area quarterback was a Laker fan, and the Southern California quarterback was a Warriors fan. So it was always pretty cool, and both teams were pretty good at the time. So looking forward to getting back in there to really get to know some guys.
Yeah, getting to know them on a personal level, talking something outside of football, something I can definitely relate to. I made friends with a lot of players, and it's funny. There's stories where during practice, you're not supposed to interact with them, but then they'll be like, hey, you coming over dinner in my house tonight or what? And then people are like, how do you get that? Like, I'm like, dude, like, you just got to like get to know them for who they are. Like and again, it comes down to having trust and integrity, because let's be honest, players are always going to be protected by the PR in a sense where they have to, because the PR has to do their part too, right? To make sure that there's no conflict of interest or anything like that going on. But once you get that rapport, and it's seamless transition, then all things are good, because you're not reporting bad crap. You're not reporting stuff like you just said for clicks or anything like that. yeah, it's going to come naturally because good karma comes back to you. You know what I mean? It's all about having good vibes, and that's what it's all about. So,
if for a young, not to cut you off there, but for a
no.
young journalist
Mm-hmm.
who might be listening or watching, that's a very important, what you just said was really important, because there's a lot of things that you hear in that setting that has nothing to do with the court, nothing to do with the playing field or whatever. And you have to know as a reporter what is reportable and what is just two people shooting the you know what,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go run and tweet that or report it, you're going to be cutting yourself off at the knees. You know, there's a time and place. And I'm not saying that people are, you know, doing illegal things. I'm not saying anything like that, like, or it's all controversial. It's just two people talking in a professional setting, because at the end of the day, those players are there doing their job. We're there doing their job, our job. And not everything is quote unquote necessarily on the clock. Some things, and you have to be intuitive about this. Some things are just, I know he doesn't want that reported right there, you know, it's kidding around or whatever the case might be. And you have to be aware of that. You know, I've seen too many young journalists who didn't realize what was just said was just between you and him or that or whatever. And you have to be kind of have an awareness that that was off limits. That wasn't for print. That wasn't for the readers or anything like that. That's just two people talking to each other.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I've seen it too many times over, and I'm like, that ain't me, you know. And who are, the thing about it is, like, who are we to tell them how to do their job, even though we think it's wrong? I'm not going to start an argument with a guy that he's building his own grave. He's digging his own ditch. That's on him. Let's move on. Let's talk about Josh Jacobs. You reported that he was obviously there at mandatory minicamp and during OTAs, but he wasn't actually on the field. He was actually in the facility. Should we be concerned with Josh Jacobs heading into a contract year, and what's the status with him?
It's you know, I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly what was going on, right?
Okay.
You know, just so everybody understands, at this time of year, there's no game. So no, you know, next week or in a couple of days, teams aren't obligated to explain every injury, every whatever is going on with somebody that's not on the field. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're not going to get that kind of information, and I get it, and I totally understand, and I honestly respect it. The way it's been described to me is it's nothing serious. It's nothing to be overly worried about whatsoever. I frankly think, you know, with Josh, and remember last year, I think if I remember correctly, he was there were times where he wasn't on the field last year during OTAs either. And I think even during the season, there was a plan in place for his, you know, practice usage and things like that. And obviously there's probably a physical element to that. There's something physical that they're trying to protect and get through and get him through a season, because that's the ultimate goal. It's not for him to be out on the field in May, you know what I'm saying, or early June. It's so that he's out on the field in September, October, November, December. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I think it's more probably preventive maintenance type of thing with him. I feel like if it was something more serious and something that was going to challenge him throughout the season or potentially sabotage the season, I think we would have heard something about that.
Got you. All right, let's move on to Darren Waller. He is seeking a new deal. Obviously, he has 2 years remaining on his contract, so the Raiders don't have to hit the panic button, I should say, because he has 2 years left on his contract. However, he is at the 17th highest paid tight end right now in terms of APY and guaranteed money. And based on the numbers that I ran, he's first in catches, first in receiving yards, and third in touchdowns outside of George Kittle and Travis Kelce. What is the status with Darren Waller? Because again, he's turning 30. That's you know, the ripe old age where you're getting old. And then also, Foster Moreau there, who I really, really like, number 87. So with that kind of dynamic in place, what is the chances that Darren Waller is actually can get extended in 2022 or 2023 or somewhere in the near future?
My best guess is sometime next year. You know, it could happen this year too. I'm not saying that won't happen. But I think that, that it was a calculated risk what Darren Waller's agents took in, I want to say it was 2019, I think it was. Somewhere along the line in 2019 where it was obvious, okay, this dude can play. But because if you remember, he was a nobody. I mean, he was nobody knew who Darren Waller was.
I didn't know who he was. I swear. I didn't know who this kid at Georgia Tech was. I had no idea.
Yeah. And, give Greg Olson, the offensive coordinator, a lot of credit. For Raider fans that don't know the story, the Raiders were playing the Baltimore Ravens. I want to say it was a preseason or somewhere along there. They were in Baltimore, and Greg, which is shrewd coaching, he liked to go out on the field really early to watch some of the young guys, whether it was from his team or the other team, to kind of size up some players, because some of those guys, especially those early out guys, could be available at some point, So he just remembers seeing this dude, Darren Waller, who he didn't even know the name or anything like that, but he's like, who the heck is this guy? Like you look at Darren Waller, he jumps out at you physically and athletically and everything like that. So he saw Darren Waller out on the field in early outs and made a mental note of it. And on the plane ride back, you did a little bit of research, I think, before you got on the plane, but on the plane ride back, he's telling John Gruden, man, I'm just telling you right now, there's this dude over there in Baltimore. We don't have a guy like this, like he's like 6'7", blah, blah, blah. He can run like the wind. I don't even know who he is, to be honest with you, but hey, if there's ever any chance just to get him in our building, man, I think it would be worth it. So long story short, they went out and signed him off the Ravens practice squad, which is where he was at the time. And I think you may know this better than I do. I always forget. I think he might have played a little bit in 2018, because that was when it was 2018.
I think he did play. I think I looked it up. I think he did play, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. As I'm telling the story, do we have a second to tell?
No, we have all time. Dude, the floor is yours, man.
All right. So that story always reminded me of this story. Okay. So years ago, I went up, Larry Brown was coaching the New York Knicks, right? And so I wanted to do a story on Larry Brown, right? This is when I was working for the LA Daily News. The Knicks were coming in to play the Lakers, so I wanted to do a big feature story on Larry Brown ahead of them playing the Lakers in LA. So I went up to the Bay Area. They were on a Bay Area swing to go talk to him, and get some time and talk to him, blah, blah, blah. So as part of that whole trip, the Knicks are playing the Sacramento Kings and up in Arco Arena. And so I get there, I get to the arena, and for fans that don't know, even before sometimes fans are even allowed in the game, a lot of your 13th, 14th player will be out on the court working out with the assistant coaches just to get their little run. That's their game of the day, because they're generally not going to be playing during the game. Right. So they're at the end of the bench, but that doesn't mean they don't have a future or anything like that. That's their game. So anyway, I don't remember the last time I ever saw this, but I get over there and it's during that period, and lo and behold, there's Larry Brown, and he's not even sitting over on where the Knicks were working at. He was sitting over where the Sacramento Kings were working at. So they're young players. And so I was like, wow, so I went over there, I sat next to him, like, why are you even here? I never see a head coach out here at this point. He goes, look, I like to look at the other team's young players, because you never know when some of those guys might be available at some point. I want to know, are they working? Are they listening to those assistant coaches over there? Are they doing what they need to be doing? And he goes, because you never know. It could be that year, it could be a couple years down the road. And I've made a mental note already of, if that kid from the, that forward that I saw from the Sacramento Kings that night in Sacramento ever becomes available, wouldn't mind, having him. So he was doing like, you know what I'm saying? Like the head coach of the Knicks, who doesn't need to be out there at that point in time, is kind of trying to get some homework done. And then he taps me on my leg. He's like, see our guy over here? And he pointed me to the other end of the court. And there was this dude working out with, Patrick Ewing, who was an assistant coach with the Knicks at the time. And he goes, see that guy over there? He goes, he's not going to play a lick tonight. He goes, but keep an eye on this guy. In a year or two, he's going to be ready to go. It was David Lee. People forget that David Lee actually started his career with the Knicks. I think that's who drafted him. But anyway, he didn't really play that much that first year, I don't think, and at least that's what Larry Brown said. But I'll never forget when David Lee, he wasn't the greatest player, but he was a pretty decent player for the Warriors.
He's decent. Yeah.
Yeah. He was. I mean, I think he made a lot of money too, and was during those early Steph years. And I was remember, that's that dude that Larry Brown was talking about. It was like 4 hours before the game even started. So things like that, and it always reminded me of Greg Olson out on the field way early. You're in Baltimore watching a bunch of guys that nobody even knew their names, and just recognizing, oh my gosh, so who's this guy over here? And that's how ultimately Darren Waller became a Raider. But as we were talking about his contract, sorry to divert.
No, this is great story. This conversation is great because you're bringing up stories that people want to hear. I mean, you would never get this anywhere else. So
yeah, thank you. So when you think about when Darren agreed to the contract that he agreed to, he was just putting together some, it was probably a half of a season, maybe a little more than half of a season in 2019, where all of a sudden, wow, this dude can play. Yeah. And at that point in his career, because remember, he did kind of waste some early parts of his career with what was going on, and where he was. Thank God he's through all of that, and he's stronger for it. And I think everybody, whether you're a sports fan or not, roots for somebody to just stay on this path, right, on the path that he's at. But the Raiders offered some security, and I'm sure he was looking for some security at that time, coming off, where he was coming from. So at that time, it made a lot of sense to sign that contract. Well, now looking back, maybe it didn't make the most sense. So now he is, like you said, very underpaid as it relates to his colleagues and his peers, really. And so I know that the Raiders want him, and they understand his importance to this operation, especially now bringing Devontae Adams in, and they understand that the pay doesn't necessarily warrant the production. It's below what the production says, and they're going to have to do something to rectify that. But I would think just kind of my sort of what I'm hearing, I guess I would think that it would be more sometime next year, maybe this time next year.
I think GM Dave Ziegler, I think that's just going to be his MO. I think he's going to wait because he can, and then see how Darren Waller does too. Because remember, he missed 6 games, if I'm not mistaken, last year due to injury. So we have to see if that durability is going to hold up. And he's turning 30 years old. So, I mean, those are factors that play in. And then Foster Moreau. I mean, I like Foster Moreau. I mean, the guy he embodies the Raider way, strong work ethic, team character player, first one in, last one out. I mean, Foster Moreau, I've heard nothing but good things about Foster Moreau. And I wouldn't be surprised if, not saying that they're not going to extend Darren Waller, but they have options. They have options there at tight end if they wanted to go that route. But obviously Darren Waller is the far better, superior player, and he should be extended.
And he's under contract for 2 years. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's talk about another, highly prized player in Clelin Ferrell. Now, I've been highly critical of him. I didn't like the pick at number 4 overall. I also thought he was scheme dependent. I thought he was more tailor-made for a 4-3 defensive end position. Now the team is transitioning to a 34 base under Patrick Graham. Is he being converted, number one, to an edge rusher? And secondly, if not, is he going to be counted on as a 4-technique defensive end? What is your first impressions of him watching OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and where is he? What do you see him fit?
Yeah, well, during mini camps, I'm picturing it in my mind right now. There were a number of times, and now, granted, Bilal Nichols wasn't there on this particular day. Okay. He was there, but he just wasn't out on the field. But he was playing the position that Nichols would play. So it went from right tackle to left tackle. Let's put it that way. Okay. It went Max Crosby, Clelin Ferrell. Forget who the nose tackle was because Hankins wasn't there, but it was that nose tackle position. And then or I might have it backwards, but anyway, and then Chandler Jones over there. So he was playing that defensive tackle position. It was Max, the defensive tackle, or the nose tackle, the defensive tackle, then the outside linebacker, and Clee was that defensive tackle. So he was basically playing in between the guard and the tackle.
So he's playing like a 3 technique.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah.
Wow.
And then because there were also times where, and then when they subbed in for Max, it was Kuntz. Kuntz came in for Max. So it doesn't look like every time I saw Klee, and it's just mini count, so we got to
right.
Yeah, he was more in the inside.
And they're just, for people that want to know how mandatory minicamp and OTAs go, I mean, a lot of it, let's be honest, for those who don't know, and again, it's clickbait when people, this guy's playing, they're in their shells. Like, no one's going to know how well they do until the pads come on. And more importantly than that, it's called installs. They're installing a new system. So you're just getting acclimated to learning different techniques, pre-snap leverages, cover shells, and all that in between, how to drop back in your zone coverage at the right, so there's a lot of install that's going on. So I don't read too much information, but I do think it's important to know what kind of positions these players are learning because they're adapting to a new scheme. It's interesting that he's playing a 3-4 defensive tackle position, because I would have thought that if you were going to use him in a role, it would be as an edge rusher. Not saying he's an edge rushing presence, but I would have to assume that they're going to have him add like at least 7 to 8 to 10 pounds of muscle to his frame in order to play that 2-gap scheme. But that remains to be seen. Do you think he's going to return in 2023? Because he is in the contract year, and obviously Ziegler didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
I'm not ruling it out. But it's definitely, he's got a this is a prove it year for him, at least as it relates to the Raiders. So I think it's good. I think it's promising news that at this point, it shows that he's part of the rotation. Now granted, there were some people that were not present and that sort of thing, but and it looks like they're going to use him differently than they have used him, and maybe that's a key that unlocks him. I always try to tell people this too. It wasn't his fault that he was the 4th pick in the draft.
No, not at all.
What was essentially, if we're being honest, kind of a 3-player draft that year. Like even the players behind him, like is let's just say in that top 10 or whatever. Has anyone really distinguished him? Am I missing somebody that has just blown up? I know Bosa has, and that's really who the Raiders wanted. But, by winning, I want to say that they beat the 49ers in kind of a meaningless game.
Yeah.
It changed the entire scope of their draft. Now, all of a sudden, they were drafting 4th rather than in that top 3. I think Kyler Murray was drafted that year. Forget who might have been number 2, but and then Bosa was number 3. So, and beyond that, it wasn't all that great of a draft, at least in that first round. So I know people talk about Devin White. Okay, maybe him, but the pass rusher that went to the was it Allen that went to the Jacksonville Jaguars? Has he been all that good? So anyway, not making any excuses for him. He just hasn't popped the way the Raiders would have hoped that he would have popped, but it is what it is, and now he's just got to find a niche at this point, just to show that he can be a capable NFL player, whether it's as a starter or as a rotational player, to maximize whatever years he's got left now.
That's a great analysis. I have another one for you, Alex Leatherwood. This is a hot topic, and I have my own grading system. I don't rely on PFF. I actually grade the film myself and formulate my own analysis and use my own brain. I like him. I'm not saying, and I'm a huge Roll Tide Roll fan, just putting it out there, but so I've been grading him since college. I do believe he can play right tackle. However, once he kicked inside week 5 versus Chicago Bears, he was graded out as a damn near all pro level. And again, this is not going up against inferior talent. He's going up against a strong interior defensive line in Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, and then also the AFC West with the Chargers and the Denver Broncos. These are not guys that you can just move off their grass so easily. And yet Alex Leatherwood did a lot better once he was kicked inside to right guard. Where do you see the Raiders offensive line being retooled on the right side? Because I do believe that Alex Leatherwood is good enough to play right tackle. I'm not saying he can't be a Pro Bowl right tackle. I'm just saying, what is your analysis? Because you're the one there. I'm not. So what do you see from this coaching staff?
Yeah, well, he definitely played almost exclusively at right tackle during OTAs and minicamp. He traded off the majority, like each day he and Brandon Parker traded off working with the number 1 team. But the first couple of days, it was Alex getting the majority of snaps with the first team, and then they traded off a little bit the last couple of days. So not sure what to necessarily read into that. I think their preference would be that he locks down that right tackle position, and it would make life a whole lot easier for them if he can hold down the fort there.
Yeah.
And I've talked to staff members from last year's staff to kind of get an idea of what was really behind the move from him from right tackle to right guard. And if we remember correctly, Denzel Good went down game one. Richie Incognito went down before training camp even broke. Right. So those were the two veteran guards that they were really relying on to be a buffer for Andre James, who hadn't never started a year in the NFL at center. And then obviously Leatherwood, the rookie right tackle. They were counting on Denzel Good to the left of Alex and Incognito to the left of their young center, Andre James. All of that blew up in their face before the first half of the first game. And from what I was told, they're like, at that point, we're just trying to find the best five combination at that point. And so in Alex's case, their thinking was, I think if Denzel Good had stayed healthy, they would have never moved Alex Leatherwood from right tackle. They would have lived and died with whatever learning curve there was, whatever transition period there was. And it didn't start off all that well for him, but that's not unusual for a young offensive lineman, making the transition from left tackle to right tackle. And they understood that. That's why they needed that. That's why they were counting on the veterans at guards to be able to help them, snap count, responsibility, calming them down at the line of scrimmage, the communication, all of those things that are critical that happen that we don't hear or see, but are going on in that offensive lineman so that they could have helped him along a little bit. Well, that all blew up in their face. And the next thing you know, he's playing next to Jermaine Illuminor, who just showed up, a couple days before the season opener, basically. And frankly, he wasn't playing very well. So they needed to fortify the inside. And so they're like, okay, we'll move Alex to right guard, put Brandon Parker in at right tackle, and just that was their best five. That they determined that was going to be their best five. But it was all sort of predicated on the guards going down. If that doesn't happen, Leatherwood plays all year at right tackle, and maybe we're having a different conversation right now altogether. We don't know. We don't know how he would have fared playing right tackle the rest of the year. We might be saying, all right, it wasn't a great year, but it was solid for a rookie. He's on the right path. But we'll never know. And so I think, long story short, I think they're going to try to give him every opportunity to win right tackle and then adjust if that's not working. It will be interesting. Day one of training camp, when they're out there, who's going to line up at right tackle with the starters? I think that's going to tell us a lot.
Inside analysis from Vinny B. You can find him on Vegas Nation, Las Vegas Review Journal. He writes a lot of good stuff. Raiders Nation Radio also. All right. So before we go ahead and end this podcast, I'm going to run a 2-minute drill. I gave you a heads up. It's a this or that, but you don't know the questions that are going to be asked. So we are going to run a 2-minute drill of a game of this or that, and you say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Are you ready to do this? This is fun. Or it should be fun, Vinny B. All right. We're going to run the 2-minute drill, getting to know Vinny B in the 2-minute drill. All right, here we go. Tacos or pizza?
Pizza.
What? Pizza. Okay, me too.
Italian.
You are Italian. That's right. Did you know I was part Sicilian?
Oh, that's what I am.
Are you really?
Yes.
No wonder we get along. All right. Lobster tail or crab?
Lobster tail.
Yeah, that's me. All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Do you have a dog?
Oh yeah.
What kind of dog?
It's kind of a mixture of a bunch of different things. 2 of them, by the way.
Oh, wow. You have 2 dogs. Big dogs or small dogs?
And a cat.
What? And you have a cat?
Yes.
Jeez Louise. Do they get along?
Yeah, for the most part.
Like,
there's some arguments along the way.
All right, pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
You know what? When I was visiting, remember I was on you had me on your show, and I was in Vegas. You know, I was literally across the street from Henderson. I was eating at Scrambles.
Ooh,
Scrambles,
that's a good place. Yes,
that place is so good.
a lot of good breakfast places out here
On St. Rose Parkway. I mean, I was like amazed. I was like, I think I'm gonna gain 25 pounds because I'm serious, because the food was so good. Like I
There's
was like,
good food out here, man. Hey, if you next time you're out here, the Black Bear Diner, which is on the, I guess would be the north side of or east side of Henderson, really good. In fact, I'm going there Saturday.
oh, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check that out. Black Bear Diner.
Yes.
All right, Netflix or Disney Plus?
Netflix.
Oh, okay. I'm a Disney Plus guy. I think I'm a kid at heart, so I like watching the Mighty Ducks, Game Changers. I like that kind of stuff. I'm a little corny that way. A little bit of a nerd. Apple or Android?
Apple for sure.
Yeah. All right. Tom Brady or Joe Montana?
Joe Montana, and I no disrespect to Tom, and I'm not even trust me, I grew up a Vikings fan. Full disclosure, Joe Montana torched us a few times, but I mean Notre Dame, Italian again. I mean winning all those championships, got to go with Joe.
Here's a good one: Eric Dickerson or Marcus Allen?
Because I know Eric really well. Marcus was tremendous, but man, I've done a radio show with Eric. I've got to know him pretty well. So if he ever sees this, he'll kill me if I said anything else. So I'm going with ED.
All right, last one: heat or cold?
Cold.
Hot or cold? Yeah, cold. Hot or cold? Cold.
Yeah, probably cold. I mean, like maybe it's because it's hot right now that I'm saying cold. When it gets cold, I'll probably say hot. So. I'll go with cold right now.
How is the weather right now? Is it in triple digits right now in Vegas?
No, we're down to about 97, 98 a little bit. Yeah, it was triple digits during that last week of mini camp for the Raiders. It was pretty bad out there, but the triple digits are right around the corner.
Do you guys have that field turf where you're on the practice field and it just radiates from the ground and it's comes up
and here's the thing: the Raiders literally have, I just call it an ice box. It's like this 32-degree retreat area where you could go in there and open the door and you go. It's a big old ice box, is what it is, and it's just standing there staring at us day after day after day. And I just want to go in there sometimes because it gets really, really hot out there.
Dude, where is it located? Like adjacent to the practice field?
Yeah, it's on the practice field. There's some stands. There's some stands, grandstand area, and right at the end of the grandstand area is this ice box. It'll get well used during training camp. Trust me.
I bet it will.
Go running in there.
I bet it will. All right, Vinny B, thank you so much for joining us and being part of the DOB family. We really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. Mahalo for the love and support and taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. It's been nothing but good vibes here in the DOB. So thank you so much, my man. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you for having me, brother.
All right, that was Vinny B. You guys can follow him on Las Vegas Review Journal. He's also on Twitter. Just look up Vinny Bonsignore, and he is up there. Also, you can listen to Raiders Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m., and he actually has a podcast up there. It's the flagship station of the Raiders.com, so you guys can go up there. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good analysis from people that cover the team, whether it be beat writers or just simply reporters or just the people that are in the know, right? So if you really want silver and black, and you bleed silver and black, you're going to want to tune in to all the outlets that Vinny B is on because he's the best. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The guy is good. And coming from me, you guys know how I feel about that. I don't have just anyone on the show. So I hope you guys love this live stream. I had a lot of fun. If you guys have any questions, which we do, I know I'm popping up some Facebook questions right now as we hop on these Facebook groups and get to your questions. So there's some questions here on my Dark Side of BEASTwriter Facebook page. Oh, no, excuse me. This is the Facebook group. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. I have everything. And if you guys want to subscribe or follow us, it's in the description box below. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook. You can do all sorts of things. I'm on the Relevant app, working on In the Huddle with Tom McManus, Sean Salisbury, Randy Cross, co-host of the Don't Cross the Beast Empire, covering the San Francisco 49ers as well. And of course, Glenn Parker. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can find me on social media. Relevant app is a social media app that you'd have to download, of course, but it's a lot of good information. And we're on there every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. What's up, G says, great interview. That's my man. What's up, G? He was looking forward to this. I had a phone call with him yesterday, and he's like, man, I'm really looking forward to Vinny B being on. And What's Up G is a Niner fan, and he likes it. We had some Raiders fans. We actually had some Rams fans on here. We had Chiefs fans on here. It's all love here in the DOB BWF, home of the good vibes only. I don't like when people troll other channels just to troll the channel, and you don't get that here. It's all about good vibes, and I appreciate everyone in here, whether you be an Eagles fan, Packers fan, it really doesn't matter. All right, so we're going to get to some of your questions, and I'm going to hop off and let you guys get going, but we have some questions. I promised I would get back to you guys, and so here we are today. All right, so we have a question regarding the San Francisco 49ers, of course. Question is Deebo Samuel going to get a long-term extension? Well, that's I don't know if he's going to get a long-term extension. I hope he does, but again, all signs, and if you followed me on the Relevant app, I talked about it with Randy Cross. Look, it's yes, he doesn't want to be. It's not so much he doesn't want to be used as the wide back. It's just like if you're going to use him as a wide back, you need to compensate him as a wide back. And so because there's nothing to really there's no comparables. Like, what are you going to compare Deebo Samuel to? He created the position. So I just think that he wants fair market value, and whatever fair market value is, I think he'd be happy. But aside from that, maybe he wants to be closer to home. Maybe he wants to play closer to home. I'm not saying that's not being reported. I don't want to assume anything, but look, Davante Adams said, hey, I took less money from the Green Bay Packers to be closer to home so my family and kids can watch me play or whatever the case may be. I want to be closer to home, right? He's from EPA, East Palo Alto, right? He's from the Bay, right? So he wants to be closer to home, and he took less money. So it's not always about the money. You can fork out the most money you want, but again, it's kind of like real estate. It's all about location, location, location. And in some people's minds or some players' minds, maybe the location isn't ideal for their living situation or with their lifestyle, right? For instance, I have a friend, not going to name a friend, the player, former player, right? High draft pick, Pro Bowl player, whatever the case may be. He's from South Carolina, right? That area, South Carolina, in the South. Then he comes over to the San Francisco 49ers, and he loved the Bay Area. He liked the weather, but he didn't like the food. He's like, man, there's no soul food here. And I was like, hey, man, have you checked out Lily Mae's House of Soul Food? That's where I hold my parties, and that's where I hold our meet and greets. Check it out. And he tried it. He's like, yeah, man, that's good. But as you know, Lily Mae's House of Soul Foods no longer exists. So I don't know what to. All I gotta say is, look, maybe geographical location has something to do with it, but I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. Don't say, oh, BEASTwriter said that's going to be I don't know. I don't know. And Deebo Samuel never came out and said it. So it's like, no, I don't want to assume anything. I'm not going to say stuff just to say stuff. But it is interesting because when it comes to Davante Adams' situation, he just said, hey, look, man, it wasn't about the money. It was about the geographic location. I want to be closer to home. All right. So there you have it. Hope that answers that question for you, Kevin. All right, so Donna has a question, and she asks, she's a Raider fan. In fact, Donna, when I helped open the 49ers Fit Gym, when I was I was double dipping on my gains. So I worked as a beat writer. Obviously, you guys knew that. And then I also, for those who don't know, I also helped open the gym 49ers Fit off Saratoga Avenue. And so I met a lot of fans there, or they already knew who I was. And so I'm known for my fitness gains because I bodybuild and stuff like that. Cool story, bro. And Donna was one of the first people I met, and we just kept in touch. But she was not even a Niner fan. She's a Raider fan. So she's happy that I'm covering the Raiders now. But her question is, and she's been a diehard fan forever. She says, what is your take on Bilal Nichols? Well, Bilal Nichols, again, I run grades on every single player. I ran grades on Khalil Mack when he was with Chicago. I ran grades on Angelo Blackson when he was with Chicago. I ran grades on Alec Ogletree, number 44. I mean, you can run I run grades, man. So when it comes to Bilal Nichols, he's no different. He graded out extremely well. And for anyone who doesn't know who Bilal Nichols is, he is a two-gap space eater. What you're getting with Bilal Nichols, he's not going to get double-digit sacks. That's not his job. His job is to occupy as much space as possible so he can leverage clip, freeing up the second-level backers behind him. And I think what GM Dave Ziegler is doing is you can see him using the 3-4 personnel to his advantage and signing these guys who kind of fit their scheme, right? Tyler Lancaster came from what? Didn't he come from the Green Bay Packers who run what? A 34 base scheme, right? Vernon Butler, right? He 34 base guy, right? I mean, the guy's a space eater. So, and then you look down the road and who they draft, Malcolm Butler, 3-4 defensive end, right? And then you get nose tackle Neil Farrell out of LSU, right? So you see the kind of guys that they're bringing in, and they're signing the right guys and adding the right players. So with that being said, you get a nice mix of veteran leadership and rookie presence and a fountain of youth. And then you can kind of mix and match in how you see fit and formulating the best defensive front seven that you see on the football field. Of course, they have Divine Diablo there, who I really like, a converted safety. Now he's being a linebacker, right? And then you have obviously Max Crosby and Chandler Jones screaming off the edge. And then my man, 2-down thumper, Denzel Perryman. He does get exposed in pass coverage. I'm not going to lie and sit here and lie. I've been running grades on Denzel Perryman, and coming out of college, out of the U, you guys know I was really high on him, but I also said coming out of college in my pre-draft analysis that he was a 2-down thumper. He will get exposed in pass coverage. That's not a knock on Denzel Perryman, but how many linebackers or off-ball linebackers can be a 3-down player like a Fred Warner or a Darius Leonard or a Roquan Smith, who, by the way, how crazy would it be if Roquan Smith came to Las Vegas? I'm just joking. That'd be kind of cool, though. Roquan Smith, number 58. That guy's one of the most underrated off-ball linebackers in the game. You guys know this in my grading system. The guy is the best pass coverage inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker last year. Not this year, but last year. This year would have to go to Darius Leonard, of course. But that's why I have grades, man. That's why I have grades. All right, I think that's going to be it. I got to get my gym gains in. If you guys follow me on Instagram, if you guys follow me on Twitter, if you guys follow me on YouTube, whatever the case may be, I posted my 1,000-calorie burnout in under 60 minutes. And people are like, dang, man, that's crazy. Well, if you follow me on Instagram dating back to my prep days, like pre-prep days, which is back, 2016, 2017, yeah, there was a highlight on Instagram where I was just burning 1,000 calories, like it's no joke. And then people were like, "Oh yeah, you're making it up." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's do a live video, right? Let's do a full-on stream for an hour." And I was like, "Oh, or if you're in the South Bay, you can come over to 24 Hour Fitness off Calaveras Boulevard, and we can just set this square this right now, and I can sit on the highest setting, and you can stand there for an hour and see me burn 1,000 calories." Literally, 2 people went there and did it, and they were just watching me. And I did it. And after that, all I heard was crickets. It's like, nah, man, like I actually do burn 1,000 calories in under an hour. So if you're going to call me out, you better back it up. And so they couldn't back it up because they saw it proof like I was burning 1,000 calories. But it is what it is. I am going to tell you guys how to increase your gains on the Stairmaster because it isn't easy. But again, if you can kind of gradually increase your step count and increase the interval training to where you're at a steady pace without huffing and puffing, that's how you're going to build up a stronger workout in terms of your work capacity. A lot of times over, and I'm just talking about fitness here a little bit because I get a lot of fitness DMs on Instagram. So I'm just going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and just answer the freaking question. People are asking me, what level setting do you have it on? Will it be made by Matrix? Will it be made by Life Fitness? Will it be made by whatever the brand cardio that you're using? I know at EOS off St. Rose Parkway, my man Trey hooked me up. And by the way, they have a movie theater inside their cardio. I'm telling you, off St. Rose Parkway, EOS is the man. That's the best gym since my days at San Diego State at the Arc. I'm telling you, it has a movie theater where you can do cardio. But getting back to it, no matter what Stairmaster you use, you always have to make sure that, you know, the setting has to be somewhat comparable to, because all cardio is not created equal. So I would say if the setting's 20, which in my case, it's the highest setting is 20, set it to around, if you're starting, set it to around 6 to 8, right? And do that for 5 minutes and then increase it from 6 to 8 to 8 to 10 the following day, right? And you do that for 5-minute increments. And then you're going to start, you're seeing your work capacity getting stronger. What's going to happen now is when you're strength training, it's also going to be a lot stronger because now your work capacity, you're being more efficient with your gains because now you're not taking 30 seconds or 30 to 45 seconds in between rest. Now you're taking maybe 10 to 15 seconds in between sets, depending on what you're doing, right? the general rule of thumb is 30 to 45 seconds. But again, if you're lifting heavier weights, you're going to want to take longer rest breaks, right? If you're strength training, as opposed to if you're trying to build hypertrophy and muscle growth and yada, yada, yada. We can talk about that all day long. But in layman terms, that's how you kind of see it going, right? If you're going to do cardio, you want to make sure that you're doing it to where you're not saying, oh, BEASTwriter can do 1,000 calories in under 6 minutes, I can do it. Like, nah, man, like that took a lot of time, like a lot of discipline, a lot of dedication, and a lot of time. Like I just couldn't do that straight out of the gate. Like that'd be crazy. Now, some people can. If you're like a marathon runner or something, I'm sure you can do it and probably burn 2,000 calories in under an hour. But actually that's impossible because the highest level setting is 20. But what I'm trying to get at is it takes baby steps. So again, if you're just starting off, and I'm getting a lot of DMs on this, is start small, start in like 5 to 10 minute increments and then work your way up, right? So you might want to do that for like the first couple of weeks so your body can build up that what's called muscle memory. Because one thing that I will say is people fall off the treadmill. You know, those freaking gym folly videos that you see on TikTok and all that crap? Yeah, that really happens. Legit. I've seen a girl fall off backwards off the Stairmaster before. I've seen another girl try to be on her phone while she's walking up the stairs, missed the step, and then went face forward and then had a bloody nose. And then I had to stop, and it stopped, because no one was helping her. Like, why isn't anyone helping this poor girl that just smacked her face on the Stairmaster? Because they're all they care about is themselves. So I walked over to the girl. If you guys saw my IG story on that one, and I helped her out, because you got to be careful. Like, you can't just go on a Stairmaster thinking like, oh, it's just walking upstairs. It's not as simple as that. Because you're using muscles that you're not normally working out. Like, it's not as simple as walking upstairs because that thing keeps churning. If you're walking upstairs, you can kind of control the pace. Well, on a Stairmaster, the pace is already presetted for you, right? Once you hit that number, if it's on 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever the number is, it's already preset. So it's going to keep going. If you're on your phone, how do you know where you're going to step? If you're just on your phone and doing this, and then it ain't going to work, dude. You're going to be on Gym Folly or something like that. Gym Fail, right? Remember Facebook had a Gym Fail Facebook page before? You'll be on one of those outlets or TikTok or something, and then someone will make a remix of that and it'll go viral or something like that. But I don't know. All I got to say is you got to be careful when you're on the Stairmaster because it is no joke. So another thing I will say is people have varying opinions on holding on to the rails. I always hold on to the rails, and people, oh, that's cheating. Really? You try doing 1,000 calories in under 60 minutes without holding on to the rails and let me know how you feel. And secondly, looks come at a price. Like, for someone else to say that, but then have that look, and then for me to hold on to rails and them to like criticize me and I'm holding on the rails, but then I have this look, it's like, well, the look speaks for itself. I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so strong. But I mean, in the fitness game, it's all about the looks. Let's not get it twisted. So I don't care what people say. Oh, you're not using as much calorie burn if you're holding on to the rails. Okay, well then you let's see you fall flat face on your freaking head, and let's see how that goes for you after burning 1,000 calories in under an hour. Literally, it saved my life yesterday because I was holding on to the rails, and I don't care. People see me all the time when I'm holding on to the rails. Yeah, I hold on to the rails for dear life because I don't want to fall flat face on my head and have a bloody nose and people being like, oh man, see that douchebag over there? Oh my gosh, he thinks he's so cool. Nah, man, I'm playing it safe, dude. I'm holding on to the rails because the rails there for a reason. The rails there for a reason. So use it. All right. That's pretty much a question on the fitness gains when it comes to the Stairmaster. Again, people are asking me what I do for that and the level setting. I have it at 20, which is the highest level. I don't take water breaks. So for the duration of the whole hour, I do not take one water break, and I just go full blown. Now, I'm not a robot. I will turn it down to like level 18 once my legs start to give out a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's almost like once it hits 18, I do that for about 5-minute interval, and then I pump it back up to 20, and then we're off and running. So again, it's all about having the beast mentality, do what others won't, right? And so if you have that mentality going into the gym or getting your fitness gains in, instead of making excuses for why you can't do something, I think that's going to be beneficial for you in the long run. And that's what it's all about here in the DOB. That's why you see the barbell right here. That's why our logo is football and fitness. That's what we do. You know what I mean? Here in the DOB. So if you guys want fitness gains, you're going to get that. If you guys want silver and black information, you're going to get that. And again, I try to provide you guys with as much information as possible so you guys can formulate your own analysis. But then also when it comes to your fitness gains, that you guys can make better improvements in each of your lifestyles. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to hop off because I got to go back to the gym. I did my fasted cardio already. Got to go back to the gym, hit my back workout, and then hit some abs before doing it all over again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was a lovely live stream. If again, follow my man, Vinny Bonsignore. He's on Twitter at Vinny Bonsignore. You can also follow him by just Google search Vinny Bonsignore. Las Vegas Review Journal, Vegas Nation, or just type in the keywords Raiders, Vinny Bonsignore. You can follow all his stuff there. He also has a cool podcast on Raiders.com, which is the Raiders Nation Radio, the flagship station that they always are on there providing pulse insights. And so that's the one. Some of you are asking, is that the one you were on? Yes, that's the one that I was on. And it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. 9:20 a.m. All right. So that pretty much wraps it up. Again, if you guys have any questions, or if you're just getting off work and you're not watching this live and you're watching this as a static video shortly thereafter, drop those comments. I'm always going to get back to you guys and give you guys analysis on whatever it is you guys want to know, or if you have any questions regarding your fitness gains, or if you want improvements on how to improve a certain workout, whether it be working out with dumbbells, working out with easy curl bars, working out with cables, working out with whatever the case may be, right? I will do my best to help you out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I had a lot of fun on this live stream. Take care for now. I'll be back tomorrow. BEASTwriter out.